Okay, Yellowstone fans, buckle up because we're diving deep where the dust settles, the secrets multiply, and Elizabeth's missing baby might just be the plot twist nobody saw coming. Did the 1923 finale sneak in a secret blueprint for the Madison? Is Elizabeth's quiet exit actually a power move worthy of Taylor Sheridan's twisted chessboard? Today, we're tearing down fences, blowing open theories, and connecting dots so wild they make a rodeo look like a tea party. Stick around. By the end of this, you'll never look at Elizabeth the same way again. Elizabeth's disappearance, a quiet exit or a calculated setup for something bigger. When Elizabeth vanished from 1923, it didn't just feel abrupt, it felt suspicious. One minute she's grappling with heartbreak and survival, the next, she's a ghost in the storyline. For a character once central to the show's emotional weight, her sudden fade-out raised more than just eyebrows. What if this wasn't just a narrative casualty, but a strategic silence? Taylor Sheridan rarely writes characters who disappear without purpose, so could Elizabeth's absence be less about ending her arc and more about planting a fuse that hasn't yet been lit? Let's rewind. Elizabeth was carrying a child, potentially the last living thread in her branch of the Dutton family tree. But with Jack out of reach and war clouds looming, the chances of us ever seeing that child raised on the Dutton ranch felt slim. Now, fast forward to the whispers around the Madison, a modern-day drama rumored to be connected to the larger Yellowstone saga. Fans are starting to connect dots, speculating that Elizabeth's bloodline may have quietly migrated east, trading spurs for city streets, yet keeping that fiery Dutton DNA alive. What if her disappearance wasn't an end, but an origin story? And here's the kicker. If Sheridan is playing a long game, Elizabeth's quiet exit could be the most important move yet. Imagine a new protagonist in the Madison, completely unaware they're descended from ranch royalty, unknowingly carrying the weight of the Yellowstone legacy. It flips the script, no cowboy hats or cattle drives, but the same generational grit pulsing underneath. If Elizabeth was the bridge between eras, her silence speaks louder than any monologue. Her exit might not have been quiet after all. It may have been thunder in disguise. Sheridan's long game. Was Elizabeth's baby always meant to launch a new Dutton bloodline? Taylor Sheridan doesn't just write stories. He builds dynasties, one breadcrumb at a time, and one of his most quietly provocative moves may have come through Elizabeth's womb. In 1923, her pregnancy was presented as a tragedy in waiting, wrapped in loss and uncertainty. But what if that baby was never just a plot device? What if it was a seed planted early with the full intention of sprouting decades later in a completely different world? A world like the Madison. Think about it, Jack Dutton, separated from Elizabeth. She's left behind, pregnant, grieving, and ultimately written out of the central plot. But Sheridan's writing rarely forgets its threads. A child born of the Dutton's line, raised far from the Yellowstone ranch, could be the ultimate wild card. What if that child's descendants grow up disconnected from the land, but not from the legacy? The Madison, a modern spin-off set in Boston, may not wear cowboy boots, but it just might be the quiet continuation of a Dutton bloodline, one we never saw coming. If this was Sheridan's plan all along, it's not just clever, it's Shakespearean. A lost heir, unaware of their true heritage, re-emerging in a new era with no idea they're carrying a legacy built on blood, land, and survival. It's poetic, it's powerful, and it fits Sheridan's pattern of generational storytelling to perfection. Elizabeth's baby may not have been the end of a lineage, it may have been the hidden beginning of a new dynasty, written not in dust and cattle, but in skyscrapers and secrets. Montana DNA in Boston drama, how the Madison could be a modern Dutton story in disguise. At first glance, the Madison looks like a sharp turn, away from the dusty landscapes of Montana, trading wide-open ranches for sleek Boston brownstones and urban drama. But if you dig a little deeper, something uncanny starts to emerge. What if this new spin-off isn't a detour, but a disguise? A Dutton story dressed in modern clothes, pulsing with the same DNA that fueled the Yellowstone Empire, but this time with no cowboy hats in sight. The theory gaining traction is this Madison's central family, the McIntoshes, could be descendants of Elizabeth and Jack Dutton's secret child from 1923. Imagine the possibilities. A legacy orphaned by time, disconnected from the ranch but still bearing the same fire, the same unbreakable instinct to survive and claim what's theirs. If Taylor Sheridan did bake this bloodline into Boston, it would be his boldest twist yet, remixing the generational saga from cattle drives to corporate boardrooms, all while preserving its core theme: legacy, loyalty, and the war over inheritance. This isn't just about clever crossover potential. It's about Sheridan expanding the Dutton universe in a way that feels fresh but still familiar. If the McIntoshes are Duttons by blood, then the Madison becomes more than just another spin-off. It becomes the modern echo of a frontier myth, where the cowboy code has traded revolvers for real estate, but the stakes are just as high. And if that's the case, Elizabeth's baby didn't just survive, it thrived in secret, ready to carry the Yellowstone legacy into uncharted territory. Did the 1923 finale sneak in a backdoor pilot for the Madison? The finale of 1923 left many fans reeling, with war looming, Jack dead, and Elizabeth's future hanging by a thread. But what if, buried beneath the heartbreak and uncertainty, there was something far more calculated at play? A subtle shift in tone, a quiet setup, a lingering thread left intentionally untied. Some sharp-eyed viewers now believe the 1923 finale may have served as a backdoor pilot for the Madison, a stealthy introduction to a future generation we haven't officially met yet. The ingredients are all there: Elizabeth's unconfirmed pregnancy, her retreat from the Dutton ranch, and a growing distance between her storyline and the main narrative. What if that wasn't narrative neglect, but narrative precision? A soft pivot toward a character we'll never fully know in 1923 because their real journey hasn't started yet. That journey could begin decades later in the Madison, with a descendant who has no idea they carry the bloodline of the most powerful ranching dynasty in the West. If this theory holds, it would be one of Sheridan's most audacious moves, building a bridge between eras without ever calling it out. A child born in silence, raised in the shadows, whose story explodes not in the dust of Montana, but in the concrete sprawl of Boston. It's the kind of narrative sleight of hand that rewards loyal viewers and shakes up the entire Yellowstone timeline. The finale of 1923 may not have just closed one chapter, it may have quietly opened the door to Sheridan's next frontier. From ranch to city, what if the Madison's McIntosh family descended from Elizabeth's line? What if the story of the Duttons didn't end on horseback, but behind the wheel of a black SUV in downtown Boston? That's the kind of wild but strangely plausible theory surfacing as fans dissect the DNA of the Madison. The McIntosh family, central to this new urban set series, may not just be new characters, they could be heirs, specifically descendants of Elizabeth and Jack's secret child from 1923. If true, this flips everything we think we know about the Dutton legacy and stretches its roots farther than anyone expected. Elizabeth's fate in 1923 was left suspiciously vague. Pregnant, isolated, and emotionally wrecked, she seemingly disappears from the core narrative just as her child could carry forward the family name. If that child wasn't raised in Montana, where did they go? Boston, full of old money, buried secrets, and ruthless power games, suddenly makes sense. What if the McIntosh family's influence in the Madison is tied not just to ambition or wealth, but to the raw, inherited grit of the Dutton bloodline, long buried but not forgotten? This theory doesn't just reframe the Madison, it recharges the entire Sheridan universe. Instead of a side story, the McIntoshes could represent the Duttons' evolution, a bloodline that shed its boots and saddles but kept its fire. And if the city is just a new frontier, then the legacy of 1923 didn't end in silence. It detonated somewhere else entirely, in a family who had no idea they were born from the same dynasty that once ruled the West. Could the Madison finally reveal what happened to Elizabeth's child? For fans of 1923, Elizabeth's arc ended with more questions than closure. Left behind, emotionally shattered, and pregnant with a child that never appeared on screen, her storyline faded faded into quiet ambiguity. But in the world of Taylor Sheridan, silence is never accidental, it's strategic. With the Madison on the horizon, the biggest mystery might not be who the Macintoshes are, but who they were. Could this new series finally unravel what really happened to Elizabeth's child, and in doing so, rewrite the entire Dutton family legacy? Sheridan has a habit of burying vital plot lines in plain sight, only to resurrect them when they matter most. What if the Madison is less about starting something new and more about continuing something forgotten? The show could stealthily answer the question, 1923 never did. Did Elizabeth raise that child? Where? And how did the next generation break away from the Yellowstone orbit? A baby born in chaos, far from the Duttons' protection, could easily have ended up with a different name, but the same fire in their veins. If the Madison reveals that one of its key characters is Elizabeth's descendant, it would be a masterstroke retroactively elevating a loose end into a franchise linchpin. It transforms Elizabeth's tragic goodbye into a hidden origin story, one that stretches from a ranch on the brink of collapse to a city pulsing with ambition. The question isn't just what happened to the child, it's what legacy that child unknowingly inherited and whether they're ready to claim it. So, what do you think? Was Elizabeth's disappearance a whispered goodbye or the opening bell for a whole new Dutton dynasty? Drop your wildest theories below, because this is Yellowstone fandom at its best. Conspiracy hats on, boots off, and minds blown. And hey, if you're still reeling from that twist, smash that like button like it owes you money, subscribe for your regular dose of Sheridan secrets, and hit the bell because trust me, the saga is far from over. Until next time, keep your spurs sharp and your theories sharper.